Thank you for joining us today on PENSDOWN. On this program, we connect with journalists located anywhere across the world, and then we try to find out what they go through or they went through. That is for those who are not in active practice during their time while they were practicing or they were walking through the craft. Today, we are going to Nigeria, and I've been joined by a senior colleague in Nigeria. Mr. Jacob Eddy is a journalist based in Nigeria. He's had a wealth of experience in the craft. His full profile is going to be displayed to you on the screen while we go on with this conversation. As I said, this is PENSDOWN. On this program, the journalist is the newsmaker, not the reporter or presenter. Thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you.
Right. First of all, did you enter journalism by accident or it was by design?
By accident.
We would love to hear the story behind the accident.
As a young child, I went to secondary school. As an art student, most of us wanted to study law. So along the line, I was unable to get law.
Okay.
Then I didn't want to be in school anymore. And I was frustrated. Then my father told me, okay, I want to go to school. I said, yes, I want to go to school. And he said to me, okay, he will contact his friend. I think he did. And then I was given admission to study mass communication. So I did not plan to study mass communication. I didn't plan to be a journalist. I wanted to be a lawyer. In my village at the time, journalism was not a profession that you are faced with. There was no life, no radio, no television. So you quite didn't understand the glamour around the profession.
Yes.
What we knew about lawyers, we knew about doctors, we knew about pharmacists. So if you were an art student, your first point of call would be to be a medical doctor. If you are an art student and you are topping, you wanted to be a lawyer, your teachers programmed you to be a lawyer, they put it in your head. You can argue, you could English and all that. So I was like one of those and I wanted to be a lawyer. But somehow I didn't end up a lawyer, I ended up a journalist. So I'm an avid believer in faith. I think this is where the program that I should be.
Right. Two-in-one question. Number one, how long have you or how long did you practice journalism? And then number two, looking back, would you say your father's decision did not help you? Have you enjoyed your time in journalism? Or if we are to go back into time, you'll do something else?
Okay, I've been in journalism for upward of 30 years.
Okay.
I practiced actively for about 25 years.
Okay.
Then I went into consultancy. I stayed into policy. Journalism is just around me. So everywhere we went, they were looking for a media consultant, spokesperson. Of course, it was a natural thing that, oh, the journalists are speaking. At some point, I was constantly trying to run away from it, to enter into other things. But somehow they say, but you have the experience. Where are you running away to? This is your field. And you are just there. This is my trade. I could do any other thing, but my trade essentially is journalism.
What will stand out as the most difficult assignment during your time of active practice? What stands out or what stood out as the most challenging assignment you ever carried out?
Every day for a journalist is a challenge.
Yes.
You need to process information and think how this information will interest over 200 million people. So you are looking at story angles.
Yes.
That is the challenge. You go through it every other day. So there are no peculiarities. If you go to court, while others are waiting to hear whether the case was won or lost, you are looking at that thing that you will write, and then the next day, people want to read the story. That's a big challenge. If a politician goes to delivers a speech for 2 hours. Sometimes you're given a text. Sometimes you're not given a text. In both cases, it's a challenge. You have a text, you must have to read again to pick the story. If you were not given a text, you have to conceptualize what he has said, turn it into a story, impress 200 million people. I see your first challenge are your editor.
Yes.
You must write a story that will impress your editor to pass it for publishing.
That's right.
That's the first challenge. When you are done with that challenge, the story is now published. So if your paper is a 24-page document, why will somebody want to pick your own story and read?
Yes.
This thought process for a journalist is a great challenge. It's a mental work. You don't see him sweating, but he's fatigued because he's doing a mental exercise. And he does this every other day. Whether you work for a daily paper, a weekly paper, but weekly papers are worth it. If your date of publication are Wednesday, what events will you do on Wednesday that have not been done Monday and Tuesday?
That's right.
So the challenge is multidimensional. If you work on the daily paper, your challenge is to stand out. Among your colleagues, you cover an assignment. Your challenge is how do you write that story that will be better than the next. So every aspect of journalism is a challenge. If you publish a paper, how do you circulate the challenge?
Yeah.
How do you define your market to get the adverts to come to you is a challenge. Especially in very sectional societies where you have to attend to religion, attend to ethnicity, attend to tribe, culture. So the entire profession as a package is a challenge.
Yes.
Now, specific assignment. I covered the State House at some point.
Okay.
Late General Abacha. If you're a student of history, you will know how challenging it was at that time to cover, to be a journalist in Nigeria. And so if you cover the State House, where you are limited only to the statements given to you, the challenge is how do you do an exclusive story and not get into trouble? Sometimes the interest of your publisher comes to play.
Yeah.
How do you do a story that will not affect the business interest of your own publisher? Because most of the publishers, or a lot of them, are not professional. Even if they are, at the point of becoming a publisher, your interest is defined by economic interest. You need to pay salary. You need to make money. How do you make money? Patronage, directly or indirectly, you get advert. So if you continue to attack the government, and you see, in Nigeria, like I'm sure most parts of Africa, government is a business here. The private sector has not been developed to that level where you can depend on it for your business and succeed. So, willingly, you must be around government and governors to make ends. So, definitely, that challenge is there for you as a reporter. You want to be a professional on one hand. You also must attend to the interest of the organization. I think there's a popular anagram in journalism. He who plays the piper,
Calls the tune. Yes.
At that level, you are also challenged as a journalist. So the challenge is easier-headed. You need to sell. You also, as a journalist, need to survive. You are doing that job to earn a living. That's your profession. That is your skill. So you should be able to keep your bill. You'll be committing class suicide sometimes to not to be careful in what you do. But in all of this, we have been able to hold our heads above water. And we are still around till now.
You have lived through maybe a number of generations in journalism, seeing how the profession has undergone changes over the years. I'm sure you must have started with writing with pen, using the typewriter. The computer came along. Today we have smartphones and several other handy digital gadgets that allows you to process information on the go. How has social media altered the course of journalism from where you sit?
Well, you see, social media, and I want to limit this to Nigeria and developing economy. The
Okay.
dynamics are not the same. Because if you check, in developing economies and in Nigeria, for instance, the traditional media has suffered and is still suffering. In fact,
Yes.
they have been boxed to a corner. They also now have to have the social media aspect of the traditional media.
That's right.
And they even sell more. Many things are responsible. The youth population, they don't have time to read long essays. So they don't also have the consciousness of going to buy newspapers daily or staying glued by the television set to watch news or read papers. So the social media provides an opportunity for them to attend to their sentiments. They are on a very, very fast lane. But you see, in terms of business and in Nigeria, the social media has not helped at all. Another point is that the social media has empowered quacks. A lot of quacks are there now. Once you can string words together and you're on Facebook, you call yourself an online media guru or online media professional. Now, these people, they don't understand the rules of this profession. They are not trained. They call themselves citizen journalists.
Yes.
Now, it's just like now having citizen medical doctors. Because if you are up to 30, you must understand your body system. And so, once you have some symptoms, you self-medicate. But it is very dangerous.
Yes.
Because you are just attending to a particular sign. A professional will know that this sign is anchored on several other ailments which the professional will attend to because you are going to do a test. And this is what happens with journalism. Because you can string words together, because you can buy an Android phone, you think you are a journalist. So you see certain pictures you post online and you wonder if this was to pass through an editor, he will not go because he assault human sensibility. They are not professional. And then because the social media platform is not standardized, there's a problem. Now, they don't have a standard advert rate, for instance. So what you get is your relationship with somebody who is patronizing you. Now, businesses are not run on those kind of casual notes. There has to be standard. So until we have a situation that standardize the social media, it is very dangerous for traditional media in Nigeria. I'm using Nigeria because this is my base of operation. Now, if you go to other clients, you wonder, the social media is thriving. The traditional media houses are thriving, at least more than the traditional media as you have here. Because there you have a complete system that works. With greatest respect, our system in Africa is as yet rusty. It has stopped working. So what we do is take the section, attend to it. By the time you come to the last place where you suffer another kind of degeneration because it is not holistic. And this is what is happening with the social media and the traditional media in Nigeria. Until the rules of engagement are reworked, it will be very dangerous to cope. Now, in Nigeria, if you want to place an advert, for instance, in the traditional media house, they have a standard rate. But you can place an advert on the social media platform with less amount of money.
Yes.
And you have a lot more people that have access to the social media.
That's right.
So the person who is paying will naturally go for the social media. It's cheaper for him. All he needs to do is pay a little amount of money and then have it online, then he shares it. Who will go to the traditional media again? But they are supposed to be. So I hope that this does not degenerate to a point where the traditional media will have to go extinct. And I tell you, Mr. Steven, if you allow the social media to go unchecked, it can put the world in danger.
Let me come in with this question. Let me come in with this question. I engaged one of your colleagues that is at your level. He's also a senior colleague, Mr. Lekon Tufodurin, also on this platform. And I was asking him that social media has created richer bloggers than richer journalists. We have the training to be able to manipulate platforms that use media for communication. So we should have been better off looking at social media as almost an accessory to the work of the media. But here we are, that in Africa, scarcely trained people in mass communication seem to have made a windfall out of social media than the actual trained journalists. What he said was that journalists more or less lived in self-denial, like we did for the high five and blackberries and the rest. We thought this was also another storm in a teacup. From where you sit, why have journalists not been able to exact the full financial benefit of social media to their advantage?
Okay. You said my colleague, I don't know him, but he said you said something now that said we live in self-denial.
He said we live, Mr. Lekon Tufodurin, he said we lived in self-denial.
Lekon spoke the truth. I tell you the truth, he spoke the truth. You see, this thing we do about journalists that, we're just trying to help disseminate information. We leave the business aspect of it. It's very dangerous. Now, in the last, I think, maybe about 15, 20 years in Nigeria, the broadcast media houses have been able to cut an edge. Almost everything you see on television is paid for. There is no social service. So as long as we continue to dance between social service and business interest, we're in danger. About 5 years ago, I tried to contest for the post of National President of Nigeria Union of Journalists. Now, it didn't work out for me. But one of the things I said then was that we need to be conscious about certain things. When you practice journalism for like 20, 25 years, there's no other thing you can reasonably know how to fly. Meanwhile, you have not ended your life. So I think that part of the curriculum of journalism should be business curriculum. We must be involved in what we are doing. We must balance the business interest, the survival interest, and the social interest that we are trying to protect. This is the reality. If you practice journalism for like 30 years, for God's sake, what else can you do? And most of us work with private media houses. You don't have retirement benefits. You don't have another trade that you learn. So, and you are too old now to run around. Younger people are graduating from school. What do? You are in danger. Big, big danger. Because it does not prepare you for life after office. And that is not nice. So yes, we live in self-denial. The business aspect of journalism must now be introduced. I don't know how it will be done, but the value of information should be quantified in monetary terms. So that while you are doing social service, you are also getting money by the side to run yourself. If you are a lawyer, for instance, and you run a private law firm, you don't do pro bono services. The reason some lawyers do pro bono services in Nigeria is when they want to get to be senior advocate of Nigeria. Once you remove that, because once you become SAN, the whole thing changes for you. They are realistic. The journalists, they are not realistic. The entry point is also a problem. Journalism is a profession, and we should get to a point that only professionals could apply that trade. No matter how good you are, auxiliary, you can't be a medical doctor. You can't be a pharmacist. You can't be a nurse. You can't be anything. You can't be an engineer, for God's sake.
Mm.
In fact, as an engineer, you have a registration number. I don't think that
Yes.
journalists in Africa have registration number.
Mm.
As a medical doctor, you have a council that you subscribe to that knows that you are a medical doctor.
Yes. And
As
they
a
will
lawyer, they
license
have.
you to practice.
Exactly. So why don't we get to the point where journalists in Africa are licensed to practice?
But
Once you do
will
that,
you support calls for the licensing of journalists? And are there no downsides to it?
see, there must be a control mechanism. And part of it is to start to license journalists. So that once you can even withdraw his license. So yeah, so he can practice even if he's a quack. By the way, I think that journalists are the learned professionals, not lawyers. This is my personal opinion. Because a journalist can go and cover a war and become a profession. So the real learned professionals are journalists. But seriously, this is feeling real standardization and professionals should say. If even and you have interest in journalism, you should go through a process that will qualify you to be licensed. It is very important. That is the way you can really set protocol. Now, for instance, somebody gets a few $1,000,000, then he wants to open a media house. Why is not a professional. His interest is to make money. He doesn't believe that those professionals, their talents and their skills should be developed.
Yeah.
He does not believe in it because it is not his way. He just needs you, a journalist, to do what you have to do for him to make money, for him to have the influence of owning a media house. You can't open a pharmacy shop if you don't have a qualified pharmacy to use the license to open your pharmacy shop.
Yes.
But anybody can wake up and own a media house. That's not right. You don't grow the profession in that manner. Yes. And if you study, at least in Nigeria, the early history of journalism in Nigeria was a profession that people went into to attack the colonialists.
Yes.
So nobody sat down to rework the rules of engagement to make journalism in Nigeria developmental. We must also delve into developmental journalism.
Okay.
Where cover stories don't have to be negative stories. Yes, you can face an aspect. You can face agriculture. You can face mining. Yeah, you can develop it that way. But we practice with the psychology of attack because we wanted to attack the colonial master. The founding fathers of journalism were those people who fought against colonialism. Yes, that is great, fantastic. The world evolved, the world developed. We should have sat down to rework the rules of engagement and make journalism developmental. If you go to Europe, journalism is not only in the attack, it is in development.
Okay.
If you read Times, yeah, if you've been following Times Magazine or Newsweek, they do some stories. So, okay, you see them stories about embryo, scientific discovery on embryo.
Yes.
You can't have that in Nigeria and that paper will sell. Nobody will go to your site. The only reason they are going to your site is they want to see scandal. Journalism is not all about scandal. It's about development. Yes, we must add development to our journalism policy in Africa.
All right.
Not just the scandal.
I also engaged one senior colleague. He's a British Nigerian, Mr. Femi Okutubo. He's the owner of the Trumpet Media Group in the UK. And on this particular question of licensing journalists, he mentioned that the politicians we deal with in Africa are smart, and we should be careful they don't smoke screen themselves behind a licensing body to perpetrate a mission of vendetta, especially against journalists that are seen as critical to their cause. They could, cook up excuses to either deny renewal or outright issuance of licensing. You don't think beyond the standardization, which you so passionately talk about, there is a downside to it?
There is nothing in life that has no downside.
Okay.
When you are a wealthy man, there are challenges of wealth. When you are a poor man, there are challenges of poverty.
Yes.
You understand my point? So
that's right.
Any side of the divide you see, there must be downside.
Yes.
But on a scale of balance, what are the advantages of the downside we are talking about?
Okay.
Even as politicians are in manipulation of what is going on in Ghana, especially in Africa, without standardization. So when you go to licensing, there will still be hiccups. But if you ask me, the body for licensing should be a mix of practitioners and the policymaker.
Okay.
You don't leave the power to, the policymakers alone.
Okay.
Practitioners is part of the body. In Nigeria here, we have Nigeria Press Council, which is supposed to be an ombudsman of media practice in Nigeria. But they are not giving the full liberty or the full throttle to operate. But point is that the body already, what can be done is to rework regime for more productivity or a better outcome. You understand? This is what should be done. And in Nigeria, there has been such attempt, but it can be better.
Okay.
It can be better. This is the point I'm making. But to throw it away because of the perceived downside, it's not logical. Because there is nothing without downside. Life has downside. Death has downside.
Right. You mentioned the issue of ownership, political ownership of the media. Politicians and politically exposed individuals now own and are in charge of media establishments, some of them very powerful within their jurisdictions. Africa generally, and I like the fact that you keep referring to the case of Nigeria. I think for the numbers, we can use Nigeria as a sample size when talking about Africa. Are we sitting on a time bomb with this practice of politicians owning and being in charge of media houses, or there is no cause for alarm?
No, see, you see, it is our peculiarity. I know a Nigerian publisher who is doing well, who went to South Africa, who wants to start a media house. The system told him their standard in South Africa. You cannot open or have a media house in South Africa and not have money on ground for the payment of salary of the media workers. You couldn't survive. The publisher took off and came back to Nigeria. What point is it? Is that when a system is ready to work, everything works for the actualization of the greater good of the greater number of people.
Yeah.
But when you have situations where laws are subverted, laws are observed more in breach, then you can have this kind of problem. Yes, I agree. You see, I was telling some of my friends, I think last week, that if you remove politicians, security people, journalists, and lawyers from the society, you have peace. I will explain this to you. Politicians survive in crisis. This is how we survive. he
Yes.
survives in crisis. But he needs the lawyer. He needs the lawyer to give him a legal backing. He needs the security person to protect him. And he needs the journalist to propagate some of his crisis ideas. Because this is what keeps him in business. So the intricacy of the working of these four professionals need to be consciously constructed for all of them to because they all need each other. So what happens here in Nigeria, most times journalists are like the downtrodden because as professionals, they don't own the money to control the affairs of their industry.
Yeah.
So investors come in. These politicians are investors. They are investing in the media industry, but they do not have the professional wherewithal to run the industry.
Yes.
What do? They come into the industry and try to dominate the professionals because they don't have the money to run it. They even try to disunite the professionals. I know some media houses in Nigeria that don't subscribe to unionism.
Okay.
The only reason they are doing that, they do not want the union to come and challenge some of the things they are doing. How do you own a media house, employ people, you don't pay them salaries? If you do, it's not regular. And then sometimes you pay them salaries and make it look like you are doing them a huge favor. Now, if the union was strong, that will not happen.
Yeah.
So the case of South Africa, the state didn't see journalists as a peculiar set of people. They saw South African journalists as indigenous of South Africa. And so the state rose to protect them. That is why they told the Nigerian publisher, if you want to come and have a media industry in this country, these are the protocols you must go through. Of course, he knew that he couldn't cope, so he took off and came back to his comfort zone. So the point is that a mix of both the professionals and the politicians need to sit down and agree that this is your trade, this is my trade. We need one another. So we have to create a system that protects us and not put you at advantage against you. It is not a sin to go and study journalism.
Sir, there is a lot of attrition in journalism. So many highly trained, qualified professionals keep abandoning the ship. Some are landing in corporate communications, politics, public relations, and several other areas. From where you sit, what would be accounting for this high rate of attrition in journalism?
Economic interest. Nothing more than that. Economic interest. Because see, for God's sake, you leave your house in the morning.
Yes.
When you come back home, you have a family that needs you to put food on the table. So you are out there wearing the toga of a big journalist.
Yes.
But when you get back home, you can't pick your bill. I mean, if you have something else to do that is within the environment of your trade, corporate communication or whatever, it is a matter of nomenclature. You are still doing journalism in a different way.
Yeah.
It's just like you are a dentist, right?
Yes.
Maybe you major in obstetrics and gynecology and all that. You are still in the medical environment. So corporate communication, or as the name may be called, is still within that environment, public relations, corporate communication. In fact, some universities in Nigeria now have balkanized those courses. So you don't just go and study mass. You can study public relations.
Okay.
You can study advertising. So that they deepen professionalism and make people to specialize in different fields. Because the way things are going, a lot of professions are going to go extinct. because of balkanization, because of development in human advancement. They will go extinct. And in fact, I took note of a development in Nigeria. In the last two presidential elections, especially the very last one,
Yes.
lawyers were given the task of public communication. Lawyers.
Okay.
First, Minister now was the lead media person of President Tinubu, and he's a lawyer. Where are the journalists? So that is something that I think that we have not even tried to look at.
Yeah.
Atiku, the opponent in the election, the person too, Wala, is a lawyer. There are professionals, journalists who are also rolling with them. So something is happening. There is a revolution that my colleagues have not even taken care of. They have not taken note of it to see how we can attend to it. Where they are now picking lawyers to head public communication, spokesmanship. Something is wrong. Meanwhile, there's no arrangement that can put you in a legal committee because you are just not a lawyer.
Yes.
So if we standardize and professionals are licensed, they can agitate that lawyers should not be given the job of public communication.
Yeah.
So you are strengthening the base of the profession. But there has to be a union that will punish offenders. Now, if you are licensed, the body that gave you license can punish you. They can withdraw your license.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, I don't know what it is. The NBA monitors the activities of lawyers, especially their practice.
Yes.
NMA does so for medical doctors. So journalism too should have a strong body. It's not that they don't have.
Yes.
There is NUJ which is very, but it can be made stronger because, like if you are selling a product, it is the way you package your product that you set the price for your own product.
Yeah. During the time you were in active journalism practice, was there any time you were approached with anything material or monetary to compromise the facts of any story you were doing and take it?
Well, you cannot practice journalism and not be confronted with such challenges. This is the truth. So any journalist who tells you, oh no, is economical with the truth. Yes, of course, those things happen.
Would you want to share any experience personally?
I'm thinking of which of the experiences to share now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I remember a particular case of, then I was covering the People's Democratic Party.
Okay, PDP.
Yes, the ruling party at the time.
Okay.
And so there was an issue of corruption involving the national chairman.
Okay.
The corruption may not be in terms of stealing money, but the corruption is, I think he had the name of his wife and his son on some lucrative government boards and parastatals.
Okay.
So I got the story. And then
exclusive.
Of course, exclusive. Now, in the course of trying to confirm, give the other party right of fair hearing, they knew that I had the story. And so one of his officials was sent to me to discuss with me. And then, of course, I knew why he was calling me, and I indulged him. And I made some offers. But you see, I did not outrightly reject the offer.
Okay.
I knew I wasn't going to accept the offer, but I didn't want to reject it at that meeting.
Okay.
And I said, okay, there was no problem. I was willing to play along. So the best rejection was to do the story.
Okay.
So when I did the story, he led the paper the next day. I still remember that caption, Ali must chop.
Mm.
He didn't like it. And so it caused a lot of problem because I'm supposed to have had a personal relationship with some of the people around him. But you see,
Yeah.
I also needed to make a mark in my own workplace.
Yeah.
So I chose between an immediate gain and a long-term gain. The long-term gain is that my respect within my organization went up. That's a long-term gain. An immediate gain would have been agreeing to some of the offers made to me. So that's why there are too many to recount. That's why I
But
told you that.
I want to understand something. Did you
Yeah.
decide to play along for your safety, maybe at the
Yes,
meeting?
yes, yes, yes. Because this meeting took place not in the daytime.
Okay.
You understand my point?
Yes, I
So the
get you.
intention for me may not be noble.
Mm.
So the best way to reject the offer was to do the story, which I did. If I didn't do the story, it means that I was willing to play along. The moment I did the story, the conversation ended. Nobody got across to me again.
On the back of that, if I may ask this, was there any time you were threatened? Your life was threatened in the line of duty?
Oh, of course. Of course. I remember a case with one of the former presidents. Something took me to his house. And then something happened in his house. So I went to the toilet and did the story, which led the paper the next day. It had to do with the third term crisis at that time for former President Olusegun Obasanjo. And so when he saw the story, I mean, they didn't know how that kind of thing went out. And they began to check because you can't come to that house without being profiled.
Yes.
So they began to check. I went with somebody and I wasn't profiled as a journalist. I came with a particular person. So they started trying to find out and all that. So they were able to zero on me that this must be the odd person whose profile they couldn't account for. And so I got calls like, I shouldn't have done this, and all that, some kind of threat. But what now happened was that I understand that he gave an order that I should never be allowed into his compound. And I never went there. Then another one happened again with another president. His late, may so rest in peace. I practice in Abuja. So something happened in his home state.
Okay.
I think robbers found their way into his mother's home and stole some valuables. I got the story and did the story. Now, the pain is that the story spoke to the vulnerability of the president's mother, that armed robbers could enter the house and steal something. So a police team was deployed from the state. The state to Abuja is not less than 7 to 8 hours drive.
Okay.
And then, yes, so they came to my office. I was asking the security man, who is Jacob? And I was just coming out of the office. The moment I saw them, I knew they were security operatives because they were in uniform.
Yes.
I went back into the office premises and told them that I was the Jacob, because that place gave me the highest protection. If they had come to my house or any other place, I would have been in danger. Yes. So I had the cover of the premise of the office. So I went into the office and I told them I was Jacob. So they approached me that they came for me. I said, okay, are you inviting me or you want to arrest me? Now, security people don't like the word arrest to media people. They call it invite. So I said to them, If you are here to invite me, I'm sorry I've declined your invitation. But if you want to arrest me, I'm a law-abiding citizen of Nigeria. So I will offer myself for arrest. So we were dangling between arrest and invitation. So my boss came and intervened, made contacts to the police headquarters, and we had an alternative dispute resolution, and the matter was resolved amicably. So I had the experiences that involve former leaders of the country.
If we are to go back into time 40 years, will you still choose journalism?
With benefit of hindsight?
Yes.
Yes, I will, because I'll do things differently. That's why the
Let's look at journalism in Africa. Journalism is a tool for development. A lot of people say it is about the most open profession because anybody at all can walk in, and you speak strongly against that kind of practice. What are the unions and associations not doing, which is why it remains such a widely thrown floodgates?
is that you cannot grow above the roof of your house. The leaders of the union are Nigerians. They are Africans.
Yes.
So they come into the union with the values of Africa and the values of Nigeria or any other country. So it affects, elected into the leadership of the union. You go through a normal political process where you campaign, where you mobilize people. So anywhere you have campaign and mobilization, they have become politicians. So once they get there, they are politicians. Yes. But if the process of climbing to the leadership of these unions is a bit organic, you don't need to campaign. The system will profile you and say, this person has shown clear signs of leadership. It will be better than it is now that you have to campaign. For God's sake, if I came to campaign to you and I probably bought biscuit for you, I have compromised you in a way. That expenditure you have to recover somehow. And the leaders of this union are primarily staffers of some of these organizations owned by non-professionals. So it must take a delicate balancing. Otherwise, there are different kind of union across Africa to put the interest of journalists. In Nigeria, we have the Nigeria Union of Journalists.
Yes.
We have Sport Writers Association of Nigeria.
Yes.
We have National Association of Women Journalists. We even have Guild of Editors. Now, these sections are to attend to various interests.
Yes.
The Association of Women Journalists is to protect the interests of women within the profession.
Yes.
The Association for Sport Writers is to protect the interests of sport reporters within the profession. In fact, in Nigeria, there was a time we had National Association of Political Correspondents. We also had Political Reporters Association of Nigeria.
Okay.
You know, some of these groupings are to protect respective or specific interests as the case may be. So it is not because we don't have associations to protect the interests of journalists. For instance, I don't think that most journalists in Africa have their lives insured. So if anything happens to you in the course of practice, if care is not taken, you are on your own. So I think the unions should also delve into issues of insurance for the life of journalists. in the course of practice. But you see, some of these things can also be done in isolation of the economy of the state, economy of the country.
Yes.
So some of the drawbacks, but these associations, they do exist. They do exist. And not so condemnable. They are doing their best to protect the interests of journalists around the continent. I'm sure without them, it would have been worse than it is today. There are countries in Africa that have deliberate policies against the practice of journalism.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be exposed. So the unions are there to protect the interests of some of these group of professionals.
So what are your golden memories? All these decades of practice.
I didn't get that.
Your golden memories in the line of duty, these decades of practice.
You see, journalism has given me the highest opportunity ever that I want to be who I am today. It has exposed me. I've met quite a number of people. It helped in building my own confidence as a person. You don't just talk to me anyhow. Nothing scares me. You know, journalism gives you some sense of protection, gives you some confidence because everybody defers to it, whether they mean it or not.
Yes.
So it builds you. It builds you. It helps your sense of appreciation, of values, people, and because I'm privileged to be in government, to have been in government, I also know that journalism is such a big deal because everything and everybody is conscious of journalists. In fact, there's this thing on the street. I bet if you're a journalist, I don't want you to be here. When I was in government, we're having a meeting. And then somebody said, journalist is here. And then I laughed. I said, no, I'm not here as a journalist. If I was here as a journalist, you long time ago. So I don't want to call it stigmatization, but it makes everybody to be conscious.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's it.
So let's talk about the brown envelope. In Ghana, we call it Soli, which is the shortened form of solidarity. In Nigeria, in Cameroon, it is brown envelope. Down in Malawi, they call it logistics. Indeed, one other senior colleague I hosted here, Madame Joyanda Idam, told me in Nigeria, when the brown envelope is big, we call it loot. What is your take on it?
Well, Joy Idam, maybe she didn't remember, I am the person that coined loot.
Oh, I see.
Yes, I coined it. Now, because we live in denial, we don't like to talk about brown envelope. I'm happy you have given me the code in other parts of Africa. Yes. They also call it kwa. They also call it kwa in Nigeria. I don't know the origin of kwa. I don't know if it's a Ghanaian term, but they call it kwa. Now, and I'm talking seriously. I attended a workshop in the UK. And the topic of corruption, gratification, and what we call brown envelope came up. Some of my colleagues from other African countries were trying to glamorize it and make it look, oh no, it doesn't exist and all that. I said, no, it exists. Gratification can come in different forms. If you go to developed economies, because they do not run a cash economy, nobody gives you cash as gratification. Sometimes they give you ticket to fly to some holiday resort. Sometimes they give you souvenir.
Yes.
All these are different forms of gratification. Yes. So it exists anywhere in the world. Nobody can cast a false stone that this thing does not exist. So yes, it's there. But the issue is this. This one thing I've also discovered. The people who offer brown envelopes sometimes don't even do it because they want to kill a story. It is called public relations.
Okay.
In another form, it is public relations. Somebody comes to your house, you offer him or her water. Do you understand? Now,
yes.
in climes where corruption thrives, the managers of the public relation are happy that they have opportunity to request for money for brown envelope. Sometimes it doesn't even get to the journalist.
Yes.
And this takes me to us having discussing the business aspect of the profession. For God's sake, if I'm doing a job for you and you are paying me, I'm giving you my bill, you are paying me. You don't need to give me a brown envelope.
That's right.
Because I've given you the bill. So if we take brown envelope, why don't we take it a step further to charge for the job we do? It's more dignifying, it's more respectful. But a situation where you give me brown envelope, I'm offering service, you are paying me in a way, but I am not determining what you are paying me. It does not make sense. So what I get is at your own mercy.
That's right.
It doesn't make sense. That is why I have been canvassing that let us take this step further. Let me charge you for the job I am doing. So if I'm going to charge you and I say, oh, you need to give me 2 naira or 2 Ghana CD, let me use Ghana CD for instance. You don't need to give me water to drink. My water will be in my charge.
That's
right. You carry brown envelope and go and give to a doctor in the clinic? No, but he charges you.
Yes.
From that charge is drinking water. You don't carry brown envelope and give to a lawyer. He comes to your office or you go to his office and his briefcase is with him.
Yes.
Inside that briefcase, one thing in the lawyer's briefcase is cash receipt. He's willing to give you receipt immediately because he charges you. So let journalism get to the point where we'll be charging for our service. That way, what I get will not be at the mercy of the person that I'm dealing with. Once we begin to charge, brown envelope syndrome will go.
Is information not... some colleagues have said information is public resource, and sometimes placing monetary value on it might mean offering new space to the highest bidder who may not necessarily be meritorious of it. Are we also looking
even
at
now,
that? Yes.
Even now, are the highest bidder not getting it?
You're
so
right.
What difference does it make? It doesn't. You see, we have to be realistic. Some people don't like talking about this, and this is my problem. We suffer in silence. We have to be realistic. In Nigeria, there's what they call LTP, especially in the broadcast media houses. They call it LTP, means let them pay. Most of the things they do are paid for. They are realistic.
Yes.
And now the people involved in the broadcast media houses are not just journalists alone. There are engineers who work the machines for you to view. How are they going to be paid? Is it by social service? Even politicians get paid. Why should journalists not be paid? Military people are paid. Civil servants are paid. Engineers are paid. Builders are paid. Architects are paid. Are you saying that journalism is a lesser profession? No, it is not. We must tell ourselves the truth.
Yes.
If you want journalism to stand out, then we must rework the rules of engagement. Maybe this forum I'm having with you is too small for me to espouse some of my ideas. If I have a bigger forum, I can defend it. I can come and defend it. We need to be paid.
Doesn't the onus of taking care of your staff rest with the employer? Now, I remember one senior colleague, Madam Joyanne Idam, she told me something, that there was a publisher in Nigeria who would tell the staff that I have given you an ID card, use that to feed yourself. I mean, that sounds pathetic. You are putting journalists at the mercy of manipulative elements of the society. Fantastic. By this argument you are making, are you then not emboldening these employers who have chosen not to take care of their staff because they know that out there will be some brown envelope, journalists are going to be paid for so and all that?
Now, I'm canvassing for payment. I'm not canvassing for brown envelope. I am against brown envelope. Brown envelope is that you decide for me what I should get for my services. That is brown envelope. But when you are paying me like an advert canvasser,
yes,
the company tells you that a full page is XYZ amount of money. So when you bring that full page, the organization knows that money has come into the company. You either operate by a commission or by a salary.
That's right.
So I insist that we should be paid for what we do. If we are paid for what we do, nobody, you can't pay me, for instance, for my service and still give me brown envelope now. So
will the needs of man ever be met such that man will ever be satisfied with what they have?
If we're having an economic conversation,
yes,
we can enter the topic we are talking about. This is
that's
not
right.
Economic conversation.
That's right.
What we are talking about, of course, nobody's need can be met.
Yes.
Nobody's need can be met. But this is not an economic conversation.
Very well. Very well.
The public now, this is where I also, if you took note, I was talking about a mixture of state involvement and professional involvement.
That's right.
And I gave you the example of South Africa.
Yes.
The same publisher that Joydan was referring to was the same publisher who went to South Africa.
Oh, I see.
The same person, yes. So you see, the state was involved. And the government told him, if you must do this, then we expect this of you. Because he was unable or he didn't want to, all of the above, to fulfill what the South African state talked about. He left. So if the Nigerian government and other African countries got directly involved and set a standard, definitely nobody is above the laws of the land. He too will be protected. The staff will be protected.
Let me pull the brakes here. This has been exciting, very deep, and the issues have really come in handy with all the brilliant submissions that have come. Mr. Jacob Eddy joined me today on Pens Down. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. I'm truly grateful for the deep perspective you have shared with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen.
But if I may, maybe for a last question, with all this wealth of experience, are you looking at one day going into the classroom to give back to society, if I may put it that way?
Well, yes, seriously, it is in my consideration.
Okay.
Seriously, it is in my consideration, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for this opportunity and for joining me on Pens Down today. Thanks for joining us. This has been Pens Down. Here we talk journalism journeys. And today, one of our senior colleagues all the way from Nigeria joined us. We've spoken at length, issues, media matters, his journalism journey, and everything in between. We'll be back next time with another edition, and we'll have another colleague join us. The subject matter will still be the same, journalism journeys. Thanks for joining us, and bye for now.